Hi everyone. Well, today I'm gonna make this video to talk about a very important project. Well, this is the most important project in this course, Project 4. Well, you may say, okay, is that a little bit late for Project 4? Do we have enough time? Well, no worries. We do have enough time. Well, this project will due before the final exam. Okay, so why this is important, or why do I say this is the most important one? Because this is a warm up for the final coding exam. Okay, so you are going to download those two files. So F20 and Student Code Project 4 and F20 Testing Project 4. So those files are both required. And then after you download both of them, you only need to work on this one. So the F20 Student Code Project 4. And well, for the other one, F20 Testing Project 4, and it will be imported like this. So this will be a helper module for us to do the testing and the auto grading. Well, and this is indeed a huge file because if you scroll down and you see question 1, question 2, well, there are a total of 11 questions. So that's scary, right? But no worries. I'm going to walk you through what is going to happen. Okay, so first thing, you download those two files and then you open F20 Student Code Project 4. And then, well, you will see on the first part, and you want to do your last name and the first name. So Song, Yang. Oh, okay, and then what is our section number? You should know that it is 808. And then, well, collaboration none, that is correct because this is going to be an individual project. Okay, and then let's take a look at before we do that, how about we run this file and see what is going to happen? Okay, so right click, run this. I haven't even done any changes. And then when I run this, okay, this is the result. Well, you show up and then you see there are a lot of the error messages. Like, well, for the first one, well, this is for the first one, quarters, right? And then for 10 points, the quarters, and then something is wrong with quarter and name error. So, well, it says that the quarter as a function it has not been defined yet. So I run this, it doesn't crash because there's some error handling already done. Well, but it tells me, well, I didn't have a quarter function. And the next question, the same thing, I don't have a add them function. Okay, so well, if you scroll if you scroll down to the bottom, and then well, you will see a grading page. So question 1, question 2, and then well, all of them, and we have not defined or arrow in function. But for the question 11, that is a debugging question. So if I go down to question 11, okay, it's here. So well, we do have the definition. However, this definition passes 0 out of the 7 test cases. So there are a total of 7 test cases for the question 11, but we can pass none of them. Okay, so well, how about we start from the first one? Okay, so we have to read that we are required to create a function called quarter, and then it accepts one parameter is string. Well, this string is not the month's name, and then we have to add a meaningful documentation string, and then we are going to determine the quarter of the year given the month's name and return the quarter. So we are returning 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then we can assume that for the input parameter is a valid full name of a month. Well, for example, if we take March, and then we are going to return 1 because March is in the first quarter. And then if we have June, and then that should be the quarter 2. And October, that's the quarter 4. Okay, so the definition of the quarters are the quarter 1 is January to March, and the quarter 2 is the April to June. Okay, so and restriction, there's no restriction. That's good. And for the param, we are taking a string and then we are return an integer. Okay, so how about we define this function first? So we want to do a def and then the function name. And remember, we are going to take a string. So how about we call that month name? And then colon, right? Well, and even though it says that quarter parentheses, but it does accept a parameter. So you have to add the parameter in the parentheses as well. So how do we do this? Well, we know if it's January and then we are going to return 1. Okay, so how about we do if month name equals how do I spell January? Okay, and then I'm going to return a 1 and Aleph in month name equals February. That's even harder. And then I'm going to return a 1. Okay, well, if I keep on doing this, then what is going to happen? I have to do a total of 12 if-else branches. So my question is there anything easier I can do? Okay, so before I continue and write a total of 12 of them, what will be an easier option? So how about I do this? So if month equals January, or month equals February, or month name equals March. Okay, and then we return 1. So is this going to be a little bit easier? And probably, right? So Aleph, and then I can do April. How about I just copy this? I think this will make my life a little bit easier. April and May, I can spell that. And then June. And then I'm returning a 2. And Aleph, and then I'm gonna do July, August, September, and then I'm returning 3, and then else I'm returning a 4. Okay, so well, I avoided spelling the last 3 months, and those are the hardest to spell. Okay, anyhow, I think February. Did I spell that correctly? I don't know. Let me run this. Okay, let me see. Okay, well, for the first question, that's a Q1 quarter, right? And then we have a 3 out of 3. So there are a total of 3 test cases, and my code passes all 3 of them. So that's perfect. So if I scroll up, and then I'm testing the quarter July, October, and then September. So okay, all 3 test cases passes. So let me run this again. Well, and then I have the January, May, and January again. So what do you see? Well, each time when we run this code, and there are some auto-generated test cases. Well, but anyhow, as long as your program is correct, and then you don't have to worry about the auto-generated one, because as the question promises, the input parameter is a valid full name of a month. However, you do have to know how to spell them. Okay? Well, this February, I still don't know if I spell it correct or wrong. Okay. Okay, I'm going to leave it. And the next question, create a function Atom. And then to meet the conditions below, we want to accept 2 parameters, and they are 2 integer values, and then add a meaningful documentation string. Oh, I missed something. For this one, I do want to add a meaningful documentation string. For example, like I will take a month as a string, comma, and return the corresponding quarter, parentheses 1 to 4, if the month name is spelled correctly. Okay, so well, this will be my meaningful documentation string. So that's all I need to do. Okay, and then let's move on. Okay, add them, and then still I have to do a meaningful documentation string, and then I'm taking 2 integer parameters, and then I want to get the sum of the values between x and y, and including both x and y. And then you may assume that x is always less than y, and then I want to return the sum. So for example, if I have the 2 to 5, I'm going to return a 9. So y it is a 9. So 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. X, including both x and y. I think this question is wrong. if we include both x and y, and then we are gonna have a 14. Okay, so I think there's something wrong with the question. Let me see how should I code that? Okay, nope. I should do add them. And then I'm gonna do two parameters, x and y. So x comma y, and then I want to add a meaningful documentation string and add all the integers from x and y and return the sum. But I don't know whether I should include y or not. Let me play with the test cases. Okay. Okay, so how do I do this? Well, I want to do an iteration to visit all the values from x to y. And then, well, let me assume that I'm including both the x and y. I'm including both the beginning and the end. So I'm going to do a for I in the range of the x comma y plus 1. So I got the y included, and then I want to create a sum. So sum equals 0. And after that, I want to visit each of the value, and then sum plus equals I, right? So for each value I visit, and then I'm adding that to sum, and eventually I want to do return the sum. Okay, so let me run the second one. Okay, 0 out of 7. So it seems that y shouldn't be included. So let me save this and run this again. Okay, 3 out of 3. Okay, so this means the description of this question is actually wrong. So the professors of the CSE teaching group, they made a mistake. The 5 is not included. So including x and excluding y. Okay, excluding y. Okay, yep. So I'm going to talk to my colleagues and make sure that we make this change. Okay, so that's the second question, and for the second question, we also have passed all of them. And well, you can scroll down, and there are even more questions, and eventually you will see some of the questions, they are not auto graded. So there are maybe 2 questions require us to check your code manually and also check the output manually, but that is not a big issue. Okay, well, I want to show you another kind of hard one. Okay, so this is the create function, write random numbers. And then, okay, I want to do this one. Well, create a function line length to meet the condition below, accept one parameter, a string, and that is a file name. And then add a meaningful documentation string and open the file, read each line, and then count the characters in each line. So we read the file, we count the characters in each line, and don't forget to close the file. Okay, we know how to close the file, and return the length of the longest line in the file. If it's not required for you to handle the line breaks at the end. Okay, so remember when you are reading a file, and then at the end of each line, at the end of this string, there is a \n, right? So we don't have to worry about the additional \n in this case. And the test files, sample1 and sample2, will be created by the testing code. Okay, so since we have already run this code a couple of times, and actually you will find the sample1 and sample2. So sample1, okay, this is the longest word. Sample2, we have a couple of ones with the same length, okay? Okay, so anyhow, we are taking a file name as the input. Okay, so let me define this function. So df and the line length, and then well, the parameter is going to be the file name. So file name. Okay, and then what do we want to do? We want to open the file first. So file len equals open. We want to open the file name. And what's the purpose? The purpose is to read, so that is R. And then eventually I want to filein dot close. And then, okay, so this is what I want to do. And then I'm going to add more code in the middle. So the requirement is we want to read all the lines of this file. And then we want to find the longest, the highest length of all the strings. So how do you want to do that? Well, let's do this way. How about we create a lines equals a empty list, and then for line in filein, and then I do the lines dot append the line. Okay, so if I do this way, well, I open the file, I create an empty list for all the lines. So, and then I'm going to read this file line by line. For each of the line, I'm going to just append the current line I'm reading to my lines. So eventually, I'm going to close my file, but well, when I close the file, I have already loaded all the lines to the lines as a list of the string, right? So now the second part will be find the largest length of the strings in lines as a list of strings. Okay, so well, this problem is going to be easier. How about I create another variable called max len equals 0, and then for line in lines. Okay, I'm going to visit each of the line, and then if len line is greater than the max of the length, so I'm seeing a length which is higher than the maximum of the length I have seen so far. So I'm gonna say the max length equals the length of the current line. Okay, and then eventually after I have visited all the strings, and then I can return the maximum of the length. Okay, so well, this is how I'm going to code that. And the tricky part is, well, I'm taking a parameter, file name, and then, well, the caller, the testing file, they are going to send us the sample 1 and sample 2. So for this one, when I'm defining this function, and the file name is called the formal parameter, right? So even though I don't know what kind of file I'm going to receive, I don't know how long it's going to be, how many lines are there, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm receiving a file path, I'm going to do this part. I'm going to read all the lines and load all the lines into a list called lines. And then I'm going to go through them again and find the maximum of the length. Okay, let me run this, and this is question 7. Okay, I want to add a meaningful documentation string, but I don't want to waste too much time. So this is still meaningful, even I said nothing. Okay, well, this is fine for now for me, but you gotta do something better than this. Okay, let me run this and see if it works. Okay, so for the question 7, it's a 2 out of 2. So there are 2 test cases because we have 2 files. And then for those 2 files, then we both pass. So we are still good to go. And another hard one is we want to write random numbers. So we want to write random numbers to a file, and then we are going to create this function, and then we are going to use this name, this as a input parameter, and a meaningful documentation string, of course, and we are going to write 10 random integers of your choice. Okay, so you got to choose how are you create the random numbers. Well, if you just feel 2 is a random number or your lucky number for today, you write all 2s. I think it should be fine. Okay, well, between 0 and 100. Yes, well, you can do all 2s if you want to. and if done correctly, and the output text file is placed in the same directory. So when we run this, then we are supposed to create a output file as well. And don't forget to add the new line, a line break character to each line. Okay, and then don't forget to choose the file. To close the file, okay, and then the testing case will create two files by itself for two test cases, and then return a none. Okay, so let me do this. df and then file name again. Okay, now I want to do a file out because we are writing, right? And then I want to open a file name and comma, and the purpose will be writing. So writing is for W, and then eventually I want to do a fileout.close, and then the question says return a none. So, well, you can do a return none if you want to, but if you delete this one and there's no return, and then it is still a return a none, right? So you don't have to worry about this part. And I want to write how many random numbers? 10 random numbers from 0 to 100. Okay, so if I do file out dot write 10, is this okay? No, because when you are writing, you have to write a string, right? So how about we do this? Okay, so I just feel like 10 is my favorite number for today, so I'm gonna write a total of 10 of the tens. Okay, so if I just want to do this kind of the copy and paste, I think I should be able to pass this test case. Well, of course, we want to do better than that. Okay, so a total of the 10 tens written. Okay, so let me save and then run this file. Okay, so write random numbers 0 out of 2. So there's something wrong. So let's see. Okay, there are two sample outputs. So when I read this, when I open this, you see the problem. What's the problem? We miss the \n, right? Because for at the end of each line, and you have to do a \n saying that is the end of this line, and otherwise you are writing all of the content to the same line. Okay, so this is going to be painful to me because I just did 10 copy and paste. So how about I do another way? For I in range of the 10, and then colon, and then I write the 10 to those files for a total of 10 times. Okay, well, and I think for those two files, you don't need to worry about them, and they will be rewritten anyhow. And let me just run this. Okay, now I have passed two of the test cases, and if you want to double click on them, okay, 10 tens or 10 tens again. Okay, well, and remember we also got a random module, right? Say if you want to do a random module, and then you may want to do that in a different way, but you are not required to do that. Say import random, and then when we are writing that, I can say my rand int equals random dot rand int, and then ab, so it is from 1 to 100, and then for my rand int, I have to cast that to a string. So string my rand int, and then plus a line break. Okay, you can do this one too, and of course this one is a little bit harder. So I'm importing the random module, and then for each round I'm generating one random number between 1 to 100, and then after I got this random integer number, I cast it into a string, and then I'm adding a \n. And then for this string, a random number and the \n, I want to write that to the output file. So let me run this again. Okay, now I do have random numbers. Okay, well, it's really depends on how you want to do that. If you just want to write 10 of the 5s or 2s, well, that's okay. Well, or if you want to get some real random numbers, that's also okay. Okay, so far I have already shown you 4 of the questions, and you can continue work on the rest of them. And I think, well, for this one, the question 10, that's the hardest one. Well, you do have to think about this. Well, and well, this is the design of all the CSE 131 professors, and we want to give you a hard question. Well, there are some tough way to code it correctly, and there are some smart and tricky ways to code it correctly. So show us your creativity. Well, and if you're really stuck on the question 10, well, later talk to me, and then I would be happy to show you how to do that. Okay, so I guess this video is long enough, and well, this is for project 4, and then you do have enough time to work on this, so don't worry, this will due before the final exam, and you really want to do this project, and by doing this project you will have a good idea on what the final exam is going to be. Okay, so good luck, and if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.